Welcome to the Office of Career and Professional Development Professional Communication webinar. We are very grateful to have graduate assistant from the Office of Career and Professional Development, Jonell Bailey, who is also an IDS alum with us today. Jonell is getting her master's in public health, and she is also a graduate intern at the OCPD. She was awarded last year the Social Justice Top Owl, and we are so proud that she is an IDS alum. When she was an undergraduate, she was a double major in English and Interdisciplinary Studies with concentrations in psychology and chemistry. And she explained to us that with the IDS major, she was able to complete the prerequisites for graduate study and still study the things she was most interested in, that is psychology and also creative writing. So thank you so much, Jonell, for sharing sharing all of this information, super helpful information with interdisciplinary studies students.
Thank you so much for having me. Hello, everyone. It's really a pleasure to be here today. One thing I love is talking, so it's a great topic to discuss, which is about professional communication and how to go about that, what that is, what it means, and things like that. So I'm going to share my screen, and we can all right, good. All right, so I'm going to share my screen here. And this is a presentation. So it is on professional communication, and it's given to us by the Office of Career and Professional Development. So I just wanted to do like a brief overview of our department. So the Career Center is essentially the primary institutional office for career development services. So whether you're interested in finding a job or finding your passions and how that can correlate into your job searching, we can assist you with that. We have things like resume review, major change, career planning, mock interviews, cover letters, and much more. We also have many events that help students, and how I like to describe it is we're here to enact your definition of career success. So if your definition of career success is to be this CEO of the universe and you're like, I want to do that, we can help you. And then if your career goals are, I just want a nice mom and pop shop, we can help with that as well. So, and also we have many opportunities on the JAWS portal, and we also offer a lot of workshops like this one on professional communication. So now I'm just going to focus a little bit on professional communication and like the NACE 8, and then we will specifically focus on one, which is like professional email writing. So why do we need professional communication? So like it's mentioned, professional communication is just a form of how we communicate in the professional field. So how are you speaking to others? How are you connecting to others? How are you interacting with them? How are you cultivating your feelings, or you're expressing your opinions to them in like a professional and respectful manner? So with that, you're sharing your share learnings beyond borders. So this just means instead of you having like a closed mindedness of something, you're opening up your mind to a various like different varieties that are present. Another one is preparing professional documents. So again, communication is through various forms, whether it's through verbal communication, talking face to face, or it could be virtual or even written communication. Variety of perspectives as well as connecting and networking with peers. So, with professional communication, there comes, when you're able to do it correctly, your mind and your network opens up drastically. If you're able to express yourself correctly and are able to really show people, your opinions and things like that, it can definitely correlate in the future to you getting different opportunities. And of course, it builds confidence. So I know that there's this like phrasing about code switching. And what that means is how you probably talk to your mom, how you probably talk to your friends is probably a little bit different in how you're going to talk to your supervisor. And that's okay. I think that it's important to know when and where to say things and how to say things as well. And that's why professional communication is needed. And then I just wanted to focus on career readiness competencies. And all that is essentially what we call the NACE 8. So basically, when you graduate from college and you get your degree, you're going to get a piece of paper, but you should also get these 8 like skills called the NACE 8 that come along with you. And when people say, oh, you have a bachelor's degree, their employers are expecting you to have these 8 things kind of down pat. So one of them is critical thinking and problem solving. Another one is oral and written communication. Another one is teamwork, collaboration. The fourth one is digital technology. The fifth one is leadership. The sixth one is professionalism and work ethic. The seventh one is career management. And then the eighth one is global intercultural fluency, aka like diversity, equity, and inclusion. And what's interesting about all 8 of these is that you need to have professional communication, all 8 of these in some way, shape, or form in order to be successful. So even though the number 2 says oral and written communication, so how well you're able to, express yourself and express your feelings or express an idea that you have. You also need that with teamwork collaboration. So how are you able to professionally communicate? As well, you need that for critical thinking and problem solving. If there's a problem going on, how are you able to communicate that in a timely manner, in a professional manner, where you're not exposing someone or being rude or not being able to express yourself correctly? Another one is digital technology. If people are sending you emails, are you responding to them in a good fashion? Are people always like, I want to talk to you in person because your email came off this way. Another one is leadership as well. Leaders need to be able to communicate professionally in an unbiased, objective way. Professionalism and work ethic as well. So are you able to be professional again with how you communicate? And then I'll just skip to the eighth one, which is global and intercultural fluency. Are you able to communicate with people with different backgrounds than yours? So are you able to say, even though this person has different beliefs than me or a different background or identifies differently than me, how can I still show them professional communication? So those are the 8 to really like focus on. And with that, professional communication is so important in the work world. Employers are looking for that level of professionalism at all times, or for at least during the 9 to 5 or whatever block period that you're working. And even beyond that, if they email you in the nighttime or maybe they call you with a question, are you able to respond to them professionally? So that is that for that slide. And I'm just going to focus on one specific type of communication that I feel like a majority of people utilize, which is an email. So emails are a way to communicate to others virtually. It's not a text message, it's not face-to-face or a FaceTime. Rather, it's more of a professional way to get across with things. It's able for you to receive information, request information, also getting like a paper trail of information if needed, where you can say, well, we emailed about this, so this was scheduled at this time. You can also communicate with others and schedule meetings. So that's what an email is. I'm sure that we all are somewhat familiar to an extent of what an email is. And if not, we have our emails, whether it's our personal emails or our educational emails or our professional emails. So I'm going to focus on your email address first. So your email address should be professional. So I know that some people might have, I'm guilty of it. I have my email address from when I made it in 2nd grade, and it's like, this silly thing about my name and like something silly and a bunch of numbers. But now you want your email address to be professional. When people ask me, hey, what's your email? It should be very, easy for me to say it, as well as shows who you are in some way, shape, or form. So how that is it should show your first and last name. If you feel like, hey, I have a very generic first and last name and my email address is like, is probably already taken, you can then add numbers or just a period or underline. That way it still shows off the information. And then I also encourage you to utilize your Southern email for important / school related emails. So we all are very lucky to get an Outlook. And if you are a current student, you still have it. And even if when you graduate, you have access to it for a limited of time. So utilizing your Southern email for professional, interactions is definitely a good way to go about it as well. So now I'm going to talk about drafting and sending off emails. So the question you want to think of when you are about to write an email is, who is it for? So, for the main recipient, whoever the to is. So we're going to talk about the 3 points that are in an email, which is the to, the CC, and then the BCC. So the to is directly to the person. So if I'm like, hey, I want to email my professor about this, I'm going to then put it in the line, find their email, type it in, and then, send it off like that. It's important that you don't click reply all. If it's a large email with like hundreds of people and you only want to talk to one person. I've definitely been guilty of that where I sent off a personal email that was intended for one person to an entire group of people. So just being mindful of that. But if it is an email that everybody's supposed to read, then you definitely want to include that. The next part is CC, which is carbon copy. So this is not the person that is intended to, rather it's people that need a copy of the email. And you might be asking yourself, well, who would need a copy of this? But there's times that people do need a copy of it. For example, if I am emailing my to schedule an event for something, but I want my supervisor to be aware of the event, it's not directed towards her, rather it is going to be CC'd. So she just has a copy of it. So she knows, okay, Jonell scheduled this event for this day and time. Same thing with like professors and things like that. Like sometimes people will send an email and then they'll also CC like the dean, just so that way they're all kept in the loop of things. The next part is blind CC or blind carbon copy. So this is to send an email anonymously, not anonymously, but it's essentially where if you wanted to send a generic email to a bunch of people and you didn't want everybody to know who's getting the email, you can then send it off as like a blind CC. And this could be used for a good thing or bad thing. So for example, say that, you wanted to like send an award to like 25 students, but you didn't want everybody to know who got the award and who didn't. Then you could blind CC everybody and it's only directed where the person, when they're getting the email, it will just say to just the one person rather than it shows this person, that person, that person. Or I know that when some people will BCC people when maybe they're not getting like the best of news, maybe they're like, oh, this person is struggling in class. So these groups of people are struggling in class. So instead of me letting everybody know who's struggling in class, I'm just going to blind CC everybody and then it's sent out and it's essentially anonymous. So just keeping those things in mind.
I just wanted to add one thing that a good use of carbon copy. As an advisor, I often tell students to, when they reach out to their instructors, to carbon copy me, to add me in CC as their advisor. It's a way of letting the person you're sending the message to know that maybe you've discussed it with the person who's in copy. So it's a way of kind of having me co-sign as your advisor and your advocate what you're saying in the message, the fact that we discussed it and I'm telling you that this is a good idea to reach out to take this action.
Yes. Thank you so much. Yeah. Yeah, that's very important to definitely use. I know some people feel like nervous doing that as well, but it's perfectly fine. It's perfectly professional. It almost feels like kind of like bad to do, like, oh, almost as if you're like tattling on the person, but it's absolutely not like that at all. It's just you're sending a copy to another person. So you can definitely do that. It's definitely professional. I've done it before. Other people have done it before as well. And like Dr. Larkin said, it's perfectly normal. So So next part, after you figure out who you're sending it out to, is your subject line. So sometimes before you're sending out an email, they'll show like a little pop-up screen that says, do you want to send this email? You don't have a subject line in case you don't have one. So this is when you want to input a subject line. So for example, and think about what the subject line is and what it's supposed to be about. How the summary of the entire thing. So if it's about requesting hours to be covered, or maybe it's a request for like to attend office hours, or like assistance with this, just try and like keep it as broad and specific as possible, that it shows the recipient kind of a sneak peek of what you're speaking about, but also it's like it's very like, you know, formal, and like it shows them what it is. So you want to keep it short and simple but not vague, and include what the email is specifically regarding in the subject. So for example, this person puts requests for hours to be covered, so right then and there, and a recipient can just from the line of it know, okay, this is what it's about, and I can kind of have an idea without even opening it what it's about. So the next part is your greeting. So you want to address the person or department correctly and in a professional manner. So the greeting could or should include a good morning or afternoon, or it should, maybe it could say, to whom this may concern. You can do that if you don't know who it is, or maybe you're not familiar with the person, and then you want to make sure that you're addressing the person correctly. So if you know their pronouns, including that, like with their prefix of Miss or Mr. or Mix, and then even if it's professor or doctor, sometimes people will automatically assume, okay, this person's potentially a doctor. You can definitely put professor if you know them as professor. That's fine as well. I typically try and Google them and like see them on the directory, because the directory will indicate if they're a doctor or if they have their PhD or something, and then you could just put doctor. But if not, professor is fine as well. So that's how you want to greet the person. And then we're going to move on to your body paragraphs. So your paragraph can start with an introduction to who you are if the person does not know you already. So you might say, well, I'm in this person's class, they should know me, and don't have that false idea that they should automatically know you, because they probably have hundreds of students that, you know, email them. So sometimes you might need to emphasize or be more specific as to who you are. So for the example that is shown is, my name is Jane Doe and I'm a senior at Southern Connecticut State University. This could be sent out to maybe somebody outside the organization, or if it's in the organization, sorry. If it's in the organization, you can then discuss it with like just emphasizing it further. So you want to be transparent and direct with your request / reasoning for why you are emailing them. So, you know, again, I just want to focus a little bit more on the introduction part. So sometimes people will say, my name is so and so, I'm in your psych class. Sometimes I will even be as specific and say what section it is, that way they know. And other times, if it's somebody outside the organization, they can then just send out the, I'm a current senior at, so I can get, maybe you're looking for an internship, maybe you're looking for opportunity. So being transparent and direct with your request / reasoning for why you're emailing them. You can definitely be direct, but and get your point across without being like rude or come off as tough. So just being as transparent. So maybe you're requesting an extension for something, or maybe you're requesting an opportunity for something. Keeping it very specific is important as well. So now is the time for sending and / receiving emails. So for a quick response, send emails between regular work hours, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. And if it's urgent, you can also indicate it by sending a explanation point, and it can then show off that it's a little bit more important. One tip that I highly recommend is using the function send later. So before you're going to send off an email, there's a button where you can press send later and it schedules when you're going to send the email. So maybe at 10 o'clock at night, you're like, oh, it's kind of unprofessional for me to send this email at this time, but I want them to get it. I will, but I'm not going to wake up until like 12 in the afternoon. So instead, you can schedule the email to be sent right at 8 a.m. the next morning, and then you wake up and maybe you have a response by then. I typically tell people to wait 24 hours for a response before sending a follow-up email. So I know that it's very easy to be impatient and be like, oh, I want them to respond ASAP, but it's important that, you want to wait and just give them time to respond. Of course, depending on the urgency, but just keeping in mind that, people aren't always glued to their emails. Some people don't even have their emails linked on their phone. So that's something important to do. And then the closing part is the thank you. So thank you for reading your email. If it's like a long email or like one with like a large request, you can say, if you have any questions, you can email me back. And then I also encourage people to create their own signature. So even if you're an undergraduate student, you can still create a signature. I will say something like, for example, Jonell Bailey, School of Health and Human Services, nursing major, honors college, things like that. And then where I work, Office of Career Professional Development, career fair. So this is just an example of what you could include. And then and that way with the signature is always on your email. It's always present. And then I would also end off professionally with either I look forward to hearing from you soon, sincerely, best, thanks, warmly. Even if it's like a tough email to send out, it's still good to say sincerely, so and so. Sometimes I will be sending out like a very casual email to someone and I still include the sincerely. So it's something good to include.
Jonell, can you speak specifically to signatures for interdisciplinary studies students, how they might be able to communicate their concentrations, what maybe some employers might not know what interdisciplinary studies is? I think it's especially important for IDS students to put together a signature, and we even have examples of signatures that we give out in the digital welcome packet when we welcome students to the major, but it's always good to kind of hear different perspectives and what you did, for example.
Yes, I can. So I'll start off by focusing a little bit even on the introduction. So you might feel like, I personally think that it's important to say that you're applying to a position or something and they need to know that you're IDS major. Then you can say, my name is Jonell Bailey and I'm a current interdisciplinary studies student at Southern Connecticut State University, getting my concentrations in psychology and chemistry. So right then and there, they now know, okay, she's at college, she's getting a bachelor's degree, and she has some form of, interest or knowledge of psychology and chemistry. They might not know off the bat what interdisciplinary studies is, but right there in the opening email, that's a great introduction. And then with the closing part, say that you're not even putting that in there in the first paragraph. The closing part can show off what you are essentially as an interdisciplinary studies major. So I personally would put, School of Arts and Sciences, and then I would put interdisciplinary studies major, and then concentrations, and then list your concentrations. I think that is really important to begin to advertise your IDS major from now. That way people know what from the very beginning, or have an idea of what it is. So if I was applying to a job and I sent out an email, maybe I didn't include anything, but like a hello, can I give more information about this job opening that you have? And then my signature shows that I'm an IDS major. They already have some form of idea, like some idea about IDS, and maybe that means that they're looking into it, or maybe that means that you can explain it further, or maybe they're like, oh, we know what IDS is, and we see that you have these two concentrations, let's talk about it. And then even in your email, I would say, or even in any form of communication, it's so important to highlight your IDS major. Like a lot of people feel like they don't know what the IDS major is, so they're shy about it. But for me, I think that the more excited you show that you're an IDS major, the more excited the person can hear about it and see that you're excited about it. So for me, if I'm ever in a professional setting and people ask what my major is, I tell people, yes, I double majored in English and interdisciplinary studies and concentration in psychology and chemistry. And right then and there, they're gonna ask, why all those things? And then before you know it, you're having a even more in-depth conversation about your passions, your interests, and things like that versus somebody that might have just majored in English itself. And 9 times out of 10, I say this with experience, people tend to be more intrigued by the IDS major because they know that it's bringing 2 or 3 different concentrations together, and they hear a little bit more about you. Because for me, I was always interested in psychology, I was always interested in creative writing, and I was always interested in chemistry. So to then now be able to explain that further, and of course doing it in a professional communicative way, that shows, just how important it is.
That's such a great point too. And I was just talking with someone about this last week. What a great opening is. You might not know what interdisciplinary studies was, but in my case, I wanted to study these different disciplines, and here was my opportunity to create my own major. So you can tell a potential employer, you can tell someone who might be, you might be approaching for some kind of professional opportunity. I created my degree program. So that already shows initiative. And that, I think that's a way to set yourself apart professionally too.
Yes.
So thank you.
Yes. I definitely agree with that. Yeah. So things to remember is you want to use proper structure, grammar, and layout. So, indenting or maybe you're having multiple paragraphs. Instead of it being a long paragraph, you are, sending it like in different paragraphs. And it doesn't have to be full paragraphs. So sometimes for me, I'm talking about something in one and two, and I finish in 2 sentences, and I'm talking about something else, and then I'm making a new paragraph to that. So be mindful of tone. So it's very important to be mindful of that. Things can get so misconstrued virtually. We probably experienced that with even text messages where it's like, oh, I thought you meant it like this, and they meant it no harm. So even if you are upset about something and you're like, oh, I'm so angry, I'm about to send an email, wait a few minutes because the thing about with messages and things that are virtual is it's there forever. So even if you regret it the next day, you never know what that email could derail your future in general. So if you're frustrated with something or you're really upset, being mindful of tone is very important. You still want to be respectful because you never know like when you might need to share that email with somebody, and you want to show from the beginning that your communication with the person was professional at all times and you were respectful at all times. Always check for spelling errors. That's very, very important. It is so easy to just make a spelling mistake and then send it out, or or even like checking to see that everything's accurate. Because sometimes I might put down, oh yeah, I'll be here on Wednesday the 16th, and it's not Wednesday, it's Tuesday. So checking for those things. And then of course, avoiding slang, abbreviations, and inappropriate language is a must. So I know that, I mentioned in the beginning kind of like code switching, and this is important for that too. How you might communicate with your friends and how you might communicate with your family is going to be very different with how you're going to communicate in the professional work world. I know that even for me, my supervisor, she'll send emails, she'll put a bunch of smiley faces and things like that. And only now have I gotten more comfortable with her where I can do it back. But in the very beginning, my emails were always like professional and straightforward, and because I was like, oh, this is my supervisor. So just being mindful of that. And then of course inappropriate language, try not to use it nowhere in your emails whatsoever. So so I have 2 examples. So one is an example of a bad email. So, hey, Professor Liz, can I get more time for the essay? I'm busy. Sent at 4:24 a.m. So there's a lot going on. First of all, the subject is hi, Professor, is lowercase, things like that. And then, hey, Professor Liz, You know, this is kind of like slang. Lowercase, there's not that much professionalism in the email at all. And it's also sent at 4:24 a.m. So being mindful of that. Versus this email now. Example of a good email. And wait, actually, let me see something. Nope. Okay. So yeah. So example of a good email. So this is to Potter at southern.edu, and this is from Bailey at southern.edu. So right then there, the emails are professional, and then the subject is request for extension of essay. So right then and there, the professor has an idea. Okay, what is this? I kind of have an idea what you're talking about. And then it says, good afternoon, Professor Potter. I hope you are doing well. I'm requesting for an extension on the midterm essay that is due 3 days from now for INQ 101. I am able to meet the deadline, and I would greatly appreciate if you could accommodate my request and have it due at a later date. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to hearing from you soon. Sincerely, Jonell Bailey. And then there's a button that says send email. So as you can see, the subject is good. There's a good greeting and closing. It's sent from a proper email address, and his email is formatted well, and it's very respectful and very specific. So, you know, even if you feel like you deserve an extension, it still shows like respect and like how you are asking it. And from what I've seen with like professors, they're very the professors that I've had are very understanding, and if not, they have a lot more respect for somebody that is sending out a professional email and sending it in a very like respectful manner, where they might be more inclined to be like, okay, let me see what I can do. So just sending that out from now. And again, think of it in the future. So say that you need to like get like quote unquote receipts later on, where you have like, you know, different like emails you want to like show somebody to show proof that you asked for a request. This is a great email that shows everything specific. It shows that, you know, you asked for it 3 days in advance. You emphasize the midterm essay for the INQ 101, and you explain like, you know, you're not able to meet the deadline. So it's very specific and respectful and professional, of course.
And most importantly, like you said, it's much more likely to get a positive response.
Mhm. Yes.
Because that's a professional message. And I think that, you know, your instructors, very likely they've written a similar message to colleagues, and and writing a message like that, your end goal, you're more likely to get it.
Mhm.
Get it.
Yes, I definitely agree with that. So, you know, that's the end of the presentation, but I want to encourage you, everybody, to continue to exude professionalism in all forms of communication when as much as possible. It's so important, professional communication and just like overall being kind. It can get you so far with your professional goals, with your you know, future goals of being whatever type of field you want to go into. And even in the future, because for example, there's professors that I could email them today and say, hey, I talked to you 3 years ago and I have an email that shows it. And, you know, and you might not remember me, but they could say, oh, I remember your email. And even if they don't, they could look up your name and say, oh, this was a student that I had 3 years ago. And their email was so nice and so positive. Let me see what I can do to help them. So just keeping in mind of that. But that's about it for the presentation. Again, located at Bewley Library 102. This is our contact information if you ever want any additional information. But yeah, I hope that everybody has a great day. And I also hope that, you know, you're continuing to keep professional communication in mind.
Thank you so much, Jonell. This was wonderful. I really, really appreciate that. I have a couple of questions that come up often. We always recommend that students take advantage of all of the great resources at the Office of Career and Professional Development, from the resume review to the mock interviews to professional headshots. What's the best way for students to find out about your schedule of events? Is there a way to follow you? Is Instagram the way that you communicate what's going on and how they can best take advantage of everything that you offer?
Yes. So I definitely would encourage everybody to follow us on Instagram at SCSU Careers. But I also encourage you to either come stop by the office. You can always walk in, ask questions. We are usually able to help people with like one-on-one, like individual questions quickly. And I also encourage you to go on our jobs portal. So if you're not familiar, we have a jobs portal with a bunch of different jobs and different opportunities. So if you were to search on Google SCSU and then spacebar and then jobs with two S's, so JOBSS, it will bring you to an online job board, and you could click that. You can student log in, and it should already automatically log you in if you're already logged in at your like Southern email and stuff. And there our workshops are listed, our future events, and then you can also schedule an appointment that way. So on the top right hand corner of that website is like a counseling button, and then you can schedule one for mock interviews, job search strategy. So if you like, hey, I need help finding a job, but I don't know how to like go about it, we're giving you the tools on how to look for those jobs. So that way you could find jobs even 5, 10 years from now. Um, Career changes. Maybe you thought you're going to go one way and then now you're interested in shifting, going a different way. We can help you talk through that and how to make that transition seamlessly. And I will say that, one of the great things about our jobs portal, besides that, is we also can do interviews virtually where you could upload a resume and then you get a response from one of us in 2 to 3 days. And then also we have a bunch of jobs listings available that are on campus, off campus, internships, volunteer, in the state of Connecticut, out of state of Connecticut as well. So.
Excellent. And I think students are often surprised that as alums, they can also take advantage of these resources because, it's senior year when you most need these services, most can benefit from these services, but it's also probably the busiest year that you have on campus. So we try to stress that students should stop by and see the services that you offer when they're seniors, but also recent graduates can also take advantage of them as well.
Mm-hmm. Yes, definitely.
I also get a question often too, and I really like that you addressed this, that students say, and I'm paraphrasing, communication is changing. Why do I have to learn how to write these emails? We all write text messages. Communication is getting more synthetic. Why do I have to write this out? Why do I have to abide by these sort of really outdated modes of communication? And you alluded to this, the fact that the workplace is intergenerational, and while communication is always changing and evolving, and we're always using different apps in our personal life, that the workplace is intergenerational and that there are modes of communication that we have to adopt that we might not when we're interacting with our family members or our friends or our partners. And that this is just a good practice to learn how to present yourself in an intergenerational workplace. These are standards, and it's ultimately going to benefit you. Like, that's why we're learning this, and that's why we adopt these kind of more standard ways of communicating, because we're all kind of trying to get together on the same page using the same social um, social codes that we can all kind of grasp. And it's a good way of starting to think about one part of professional development is taking on a professional persona. Like, this is who I am in the workplace. Yes. And it's different than who I am when I write a message to my mom saying, this just happened to me, or when I write to a friend, or when I write to my partner. So if that's a way that we can start thinking about how we behave in the workplace, is this is my persona. This is my professional persona. This is who I am. And these are the ways that I have to behave, which is different than what I do when I hang up, that persona for the day, go home, relax, and interact in different ways.
Yes. So. Yes, definitely. It's definitely, you said everything correctly for sure. Everything I'm agreeing with, because it is challenge for some more than others, where they're like, it's so hard for me to like shift from like how I talk to one person and the other, but it's so important. And who knows, like in 10 years, like 10 years ago, the way how we did communicate is definitely different than how we communicate now. Like language is always shifting and evolving. Maybe in 10 years from now, the slangs that we thought were slangs are going to be now everyday work words that we're using. But I still think that it's important to, have that baseline of how we speak to professionals is going to be a little bit different than how we're speaking to our friends and our family members and our partners and stuff like that.
Okay. Thank you again so much for helping us get this resource to our students and for speaking specifically to your experiences in interdisciplinary studies for undergraduate alum, proud alum, and we're so proud of you. So we wish you every continuing professional success as you conclude your graduate program too.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Take care. Thank you so much.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.